most venerable, respected monks and the nuns. And it is a great joy for me listening to the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Gautam Buddha University, Professor Bhagavati Prakash Sharma ji. And later on, for sure, I'm going to listen to Shri Shakti Sinha ji. And it is great to be a part of this program where Professor Sanjay Kumar Sharma ji is here, and my very dear friend, Dr. Amit Kumar ji. Arvind ji, he so kindly extended this invitation, and we know each other for some years. So particularly this topic is extremely relevant for us in this 21st century and in today's time, empowering the youth. Like when I was 18, there, my teacher, who was a hermit, and I went to ask some questions to him. And he said that, Dorji, if you don't have problem, there's no need for you to practice Buddhism. And this is extremely, logical and extremely, striking comment, which I could not believe coming from somebody who is not being trained in the modern education. And what he said is so practical. What he said is so realistic. It makes total sense and logical, saying that if you don't have problem, you don't need to practice Buddhism. Likewise, if you have no problem in this world, if there's no domestic violence at home, if there's no, the social violence happening, if there's no conflicts amongst the countries, no need for moral values, no need for ethics. This is the point. So with this in mind, what exactly is ethics? So this is what is moral values. And I'm sure that we're all expecting more than just to define what it is. Moral values and ethics. This is a system. It is a system to make sure that the family, the community, the nation, the world is greater in sync with harmony and happiness, while resorting to common sense, conscience, instead of violence. See the first slide. Okay, if you look at the first slide, yes, good. If you look at the first slide, okay, do you see the slide? Do you see the slide? Thank you. If you look at the slide, we see that in terms of the arrow of time to the extreme left, the white dot, that is the Big Bang, which means the origin of the universe. And now today, to the extreme right, is the formation of the world systems, and particularly 2021. They say the time span is calculated as 15 billion years. So, and 0.3 million years ago, the human beings first came into Earth, came on this Earth. So before the advent of the human beings on this Earth, no ethics, because the world of animals, they were all governed by the system of the creating fear and violence, or harming each other. This is how they maintain the equilibrium in the ecology. In other words, what we call as the food chain. This is what governed the world in those days. And today, 0.3 million years, since 0.3 million years ago, the human beings came on this earth. We are gifted with the very powerful brain, very powerful thought process. So that allows us not to resort to the violence or force, but resort to the compassion, resort to the wisdom, that we can still lead a very harmonious life by resorting to these two powers, the compassion, guided by the wisdom, as the means to create a system that there is no complexities, there's no conflicts, there's no fights, disharmony happening around. Unfortunately, while we are gifted with this evolutionary gift of the acute intelligence and the incredible potential for compassion, yet we look at the world, we see that there's so much of problems. Number one, the COVID-19. So many people, they go through anxiety attacks, depression, stress, suffocation. And again with the COVID, say at home, while the COVID is really torturing the people, domestic violence is likewise torturing the people. So this is what is happening. And so many people are suffering elsewhere. And many people, they have, like it is said that 1% of the human population own the whole wealth of the world. This is where the ethics is required. In other words, while we are gifted with the incredible the facets for ethics, brilliant intelligence, and the compassion, but we suffer terribly in this world. And as the Honorable Vice Chancellor indicated, that if there is no vaccine for the whole world will continue to suffer. This is very true. So with this in mind, this very clearly reminds me of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who so beautifully encapsulated all the problems of the world in just two simple ideas. In other words, the problems that we go through, they're all dictated by the ignorance of the people. By the ignorance of the people. What is this ignorance? And some of you may, who are exposed to philosophy and psychology, may think that, okay, he now starts with a Buddhist philosophy. No, it's very simple. It's not a philosophy. We are totally unaware of the simple fact which His Holiness delineated in two lines, that people sacrifice their health to gain money. And the moment you lose your health, you sacrifice your money to gain health. So what's the point? So on the one hand, you are trying to make money by sacrificing your health. When you lose your health, you sacrifice your money to gain the health. So finally, net is zero. But we have a tremendous capacity, tremendous power to make the world a very different world, very happy world. But we continue to suffer self-created prison for ourselves. So the question is, what is the solution? What is the solution to this question? So with this in mind, we need to have a system referred to as any system, a system where we use the intelligence and compassion directed by intelligence, that the world finds a better place, that you feel the world as one family. So what is that system? If we can think about such a system, that is known as moral values and ethics. So how can we create that? When you speak about moral values and ethics, if there is somebody, if the world requires somebody to impose this on you, this is not ethics. This is not moral values. If it is imposed on you, this is out of fear. This is out of violence. Whereas that must come through joy. Somebody voluntarily, happily embracing the system, which is referred to as the moral ethics or the moral science and the ethics. Happily join. But if you look at the world, how practical it is that people can embrace this system so happily, voluntarily, whether or not it is possible, this question. Most likely, I would say that more than 50% of the people will say, no, this will not happen until we impose it. So this is where we are going wrong. This is where, our thinking is driven by what Charles Darwin evolutionary theory dictated. And on the contrast, if we come to learn what the Buddha taught, the compassion and driven by the wisdom, then you will see that, yes, it is possible. According to Charles Darwin's evolutionary theory, it's not possible. Because what he said is that we are gifted with the instincts known as the anger, attachment, which Professor Honorable Vice Chancellor indicated as the greed, and the fear. So Charles Darwin indicated that we are governed, we survive on the basis of these instincts known as the fear, attachment, and anger. Attachment helps you to gather what you require, and anger helps you to push away the things which are harmful to you. And the fear makes you to escape from the threats. So without these instinctive emotions, you cannot possibly survive in this universe. This is what Charles Darwin said. And if this is how the universe is dictated, there's no room for ethics and moral values. Whereas the Buddha said it very differently, that the same thing, not only survival, but the humanity can thrive on the basis of the universal compassion, dictated by, not by the fear, by wisdom. So that is what is required. So the question is, how does it work? Practically speaking, how does it work? For that matter, we need, for example, say each one of us, our parents and the government, invested like 10, 20 years on your modern education. And finally, what did we learn? For example, I remember Richard Gere. I'm sure many of you are aware of him, Richard Gere, who is an American actor. Once he was interviewed, and the interviewer asked him, what is the difference between modern education institutions, such as universities, modern universities, with the Buddhist monastic universities? What is the difference? And he put it so beautifully. Modern universities, they are designed to produce, say, the businessmen and women, corporate world. Whereas the Buddhist universities, they are to produce the bodhisattvas, people who work for the world. This is so beautiful, how he encapsulated the whole idea. And there's, in fact, what I would say is that we can make this world a better world on the basis of a very secular concept taught by the Buddha himself. What is that concept? And as I said earlier, it is not something that somebody has to impose upon us, to the youth, but it must be designed in such a way that the youth, the people, everyone feels that this is for my own benefit. So there's a joy coming within you. For example, how many of you feel tired to have the breakfast? How many of you feel tired to have the cheesecake? No, everybody is so excited to have the cheesecake. If, say, eating cheesecake, if that is moral value, if that is the ethics, everybody best of the ethics and the best of the moral values, because everybody finds joy in this. So if there is a way and a manner in which we can impart ethics and moral values on the basis of letting the people find joy, this is when the world will find a very bright, harmonious, happy world. Is that possible, this question? Answer is yes. So for that matter, given that I've about like 7 or 8 minutes, so the point is that for this, there's a whole genre of the psychological concepts taught how our mind works. For example, what triggered the excitement within you when you would have your breakfast, or when you would have your, say, the pizza or the cheesecake, or say the ice cream? What triggered this joy within you? What triggered this depression, stress when you are to sit for the exams? What triggered that? So what triggered? When the excitement is triggered, then you feel like doing it. When the stress is triggered, you don't feel like doing it. So oftentimes when you speak about the moral values and the ethics and the people who teach us all like this is your obligation. It's not a fun. It's not a joy. When this happens, then the person who imparts this knowledge of ethics and moral values, the person does not find joy, how can I expect the students to find joy in this? So for that matter, we really need to have a total knowledge of this psychology taught by the Buddha. Psychology to trigger this, to orchestrate, to trigger, instigate this joy within you, to kindle this joy within you when you think of the moral values. Okay, so for example, it was a kind of a research done, a beautiful research done, and a person was interviewing the interviewees, candidates, and the person was interviewers that the people who the candidates, they said, okay, the job that I'm going to give you, this job entails you to work 24 hours. Then the interviewees, the candidates, said, no way. And then this job will not pay you even a single penny. No way, it's a torture, it's a human rights violation. And then this job will not allow you to have any holidays in a year, not even a one-day holiday in a year. That is a torture, no way. Okay, but there are so many people who applied for this job. And the candidates, they wonder, who are these people? And the interviewer said, all the mothers. Just imagine that. Each one of us, the mothers, they dedicated minimum 10, 12 years after us. 24 hours. No, not being paid, even a single rupee, even a single dollar, even a single penny. So this all happened. How come that is happening then? It's all out of love and affection, not out of fear, not out of creating fear on the child, not out of somebody creating fear in the mother, out of love for the child. So this love, if this can be triggered, anything that you do it out of joy. When that happens in a family, in a very cordial family, you don't need the rules and regulations. Everything happening so smoothly without any restrictions and so forth. It's all because of the ethics of the love and affection. Where there is love and affection, the ethics naturally happen. Harmlessness stops. So people can freely walk around. So this is how it works. So in the Buddhist psychology, there's a mention of how the mind works. It's a map of the mind. Map of the mind. So how the mind works. And the mind, it says that it works on the basis of of course, there are millions of functions of mind. Of these 5 functions, they are so crucial in our understanding of how to impart ethics in the spirit of joy and fun and happiness and harmony and compassion. How? So that is on a basis of explaining the 5 functions of the mind. Okay, that's it. The first one is known as the contact. Contact. the functional mind to come in contact with the object. Then number 2 is to pay attention. So, and today in the neuroscience, there's a tremendous research being done on attention. Number 2 is attention. Then number 3 is the discrimination or the discernment. Say, discernment, I'll explain a little more detail a little later. Discernment, then followed by the feelings. This is what I'm talking about. The feeling of joy, the feeling of happiness, the feeling of affection. And then on the basis of this, finally the intention, the mental function, the intention. So these five out of the billions of the functional mind, these 5 play a very important role. Number 1 is contact. Number 2, attention. Number 3, discrimination. Number 4, feeling. Number 5, intention. So these are the 5. Now, let me say that, let me give you a very simple example. Finally, they say, for example, okay, I should not be involved in embezzlement. I should not be wasting the electricity, unnecessary, the power, okay, power of the university. Unnecessarily just keep the light on and you go out. I will not do that, right? Because I find joy in contributing to the university. I find joy to make sure that we protect the environment. So this joy, love for the environment, love for your university, love for your family, love for the humanity. So this feeling of affection, this feeling of compassion, that is the one which makes you to behave in so the ethical way without having anybody to dictate upon you to behave ethically. So that is a feeling. So this intention to do everything correct, everything to benefit others, not to harm others. So this intention will come only when the feeling is pleasant. Number 4, feeling. If you get a pleasant feeling to think about helping somebody else, then you will embrace others. If you get an unpleasant feeling thinking of helping others, then you will shrink. So this intention to embrace others with kindness or to react to others with kindness, engage in corruption, engage in embezzlement, and so forth, it's all determined by whether or not you are getting a pleasant feeling within you. This feeling is determined by the discrimination or the discernment, mental factor of the discernment. So this discernment decides whether you get a pleasant feeling or unpleasant feeling. And this discrimination, that plays a very important role. This discrimination is in a way also referred to as the discriminatory wisdom, or the wisdom to discern what is correct and what is wrong, what is harmful and what is beneficial. And so this discrimination decides the feeling, pleasant or unpleasant feeling. And this pleasant or unpleasant feeling decides what you do. Okay, so with this in mind, I'll give you a very simple example. Say okay, first let me say, this wisdom or this discrimination which decides the feeling, that is so important. And because of this, the Buddha extensively taught on how to cultivate very profound wisdom and a vast wisdom. So with the profound and the vast wisdom, naturally, it will give rise to the affective thought process of affective with a very pleasant feeling of joy and feeling of happiness. And this feeling of joy and happiness, that makes you to embrace others, not to push others away from you. So let me give you one example. And this example is a very simple example, given that we don't have much time. I'll just try to tell you that this wisdom, how this intelligence, when you use the intelligence correctly, how that helps you to give rise to a pleasant feeling. With a pleasant feeling, then your mood is, you have a very good mood. Then you just feel like helping others. So the sentiment to help others automatically is given rise to. So let me give you one example. The last year, it was, of course, during the first phase of the COVID, the last year, there was a very strict lockdown in Italy. And I used to go to Italy to give teachings there and to different places. And because I could not travel, they requested that I could do it through online. We did it. And then after the talk, then the one person raised her hand and asked me, okay, you talked about compassion. You talked about the wisdom. That's amazing. But practically speaking, how does it help? And she said that I live in Italy, and today I got up, I went to the terrace, I could not get out in the street. I went to the terrace. From the terrace, I looked down to the street empty. And it was so gloomy for me. It was so demoralizing. It was so gloomy. My mind spirit simply sank. So how does your talk help me? Then I said, look, so what I'm trying to tell you is to share this anecdote pertaining to how we can design a particular, say, the thought process, cognitive thought process of the discrimination, so that it'll give rise to a pleasant feeling instead of unpleasant feeling. With a pleasant feeling, then you will embrace the situation rather than push away the situation. So I told the lady that, okay, is it true that this whole street was empty? And she said, yes, it's very gloomy. Otherwise, this street used to be very lively. It's full of people. Now nobody's around there. It's so gloomy. I said, if I were you, I would feel so happy. Happy meaning very pleasant feeling. She said, why? How? The fact that the street is empty means all the people are otherwise keeping very busy in the street. They're being so kind. They've been so kind, and they're telling me, Dorji, don't worry about COVID. We'll make sure that you are safe. We'll not come in the street. That COVID will not invade your place. Your place is safe, right? So this street is empty now. Nobody gets in there, and your place is safe. Wow, I should be feeling so grateful to these people, right? I should not go to request each of the people, a person, please don't disturb me, please don't disturb me, please don't bring COVID to me, right? The fact that people, they don't come on the street, that is what the people are telling me, that, Dorji, don't worry about the COVID, right? Nobody is coming on the street, you stay safe, you stay happy, and then you will be safe. Wow, that's amazing. It gives such a joy. I feel such feeling gratefulness, gratitude towards all these people. So, what feeling does it arise in you when you feel grateful to somebody? Of course, pleasant feeling. When you feel when you get a pleasant feeling, naturally, you will embrace this situation. You like this situation. You will not push the situation. You will not show anger towards the situation. You'll be very happy. So the lady said that, oh, that's true. That's a different way of looking at it. And for sure, it will make my mind much happier. So finally, the point is that with this, look, with the cognitive thought process, if you put it in a proper perspective, accompanying feeling is going to be very pleasant. And the feeling is pleasant, you will embrace with love and affection the environment. You will not complain, right? You will not complain. And then your agitation will not arise. And you are calm. And then the people around will be calm. They'll be fascinated to say, how come that you maintain so calm and peaceful? Okay, so with this in mind, given that the time is up, I like this one, just a slide number 2. Slide number 2. Okay, so the point is that what is ethics? Ethics is to maintain a sense of calmness, to behave in a calm way which does not disturb others, which does not disturb yourself. And this calmness, don't expect the world to create this for you. You have to create it. So this is what Bodhisattva Shantideva in 8th century, he said it so beautifully. Where would I possibly find enough leather with which to cover the surface of the earth? Say that I want happiness. And they say that I want to walk barefooted without being hurt freely. I walk, and then the things prick my 2 feet, 2 tiny feet. So And then I said, oh, it hurts my feet. Please cover the earth with the leather. It's just pointless. In the first place, you will not get enough leather to cover the whole earth. And what is more practical, what is more intelligible idea is cover the 2 tiny feet and walk. That suffices covering the whole earth with the leather. It's so beautiful. Just fix yourself and joy will come within you. This joy will naturally give rise to a very being hospitable and nice way of conducting with the environment and your community. So there, everybody will see that what you do is so conducive to the community, to the family, to the world. That is known as the ethics and the moral values. That guarantees that the world is going to be happy. So this is how we have to spread it. We have to create a ripple effect to the world. And I like to conclude with the slide number 9. This is so important. My talk would be totally incomplete if I don't have the slide number 9. Number 9. Okay, good. So this is what I'd like to share with you. Number 9. So this is the quote. What I told you, what the Buddha taught, is actually presented in a different form by Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, everybody accepts as a brilliant physicist. And so there, to the right side, he was giving his Nobel lecture. And what he said related to this, what I'm talking about, the need for the people, the need for the youth to be empowered with the ethics and the moral values is because of our ignorance and our selfishness. So Albert Einstein, he advised us that we should remove this ignorance by expanding the circle of affection towards others. So what he said was that he said this feeling of I and you. I am Buddhist, you are non-Buddhist. I am Hindu, you are non-Hindu. I am Muslim, you are non-Muslim. I am this, you are that. I am male, you are female. Gender discrimination. All these things are the backward thinking. This is what Albert Einstein said, that this is imprisoning yourself with your narrow thinking thought process. So he said, let me read it for all of us. A human being is a part of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He or she experiences himself or herself, thoughts and feeling as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness, meaning ignorance. The next. This delusion or this ignorance is a kind of prison for us. Prison, restricting us to our personal desires and affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening the circle of compassion, by broadening your intelligence, using your intelligence, and thus widening the circle of the compassion to embrace all living creatures across the board of the world and the whole of nature in its beauty. It's so beautifully summarized in the passage. It's so beautiful. So on the end, immediately slide number 7, 2 slides before that. Just to conclude my talk is that His Holiness, before that, His Holiness the Dalai Lama came up with what is known as the universal ethics. Universal ethics. Ethics beyond the borders of all differences. In other words, ethics across the board of the humanity, that everyone, whether you are a believer or not believer, whether you are, say, Hindus, Muslims, Jains, Buddhists, Christians, Jews, Sikhs, the Baha'i, Parsi, or non-believers, anybody has to embrace this system of love and affection, a universal love and affection, which is referred to as the universal ethics. The moment you are endowed with this weapon of the universal ethics, you see that you are a fearless person, that it leaves a seed of joy within you, And that is the best of the ethics and the moral values, which all of us is expected to embrace. Okay, thank you so much. And the last book, the last 11 one, screen 11. Okay, thank you. So this is just some suggested books. Book of Joy, Emotional Awareness, Destructive Emotions. So these three books will be extremely handy for you if you really think of embracing a universal ethics for the betterment of the humanity. Thank you so much. Thank you, each and every one of you.